Are you a composer who finds it challenging to finish your tracks? You may have mastered the art of generating ideas, but need help progressing past that initial 8-bar loop. It's understandable to feel overwhelmed and discouraged if you struggle with these things. Fortunately for both of us, I've been that guy who struggles with those things. But through analyzing my own creative process and observing what works and what can be better, I've devised a methodology that yields results. Before we go any further, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Gabe, the audio architect. Welcome to my channel devoted to providing insight into the creative process as it pertains to video game music and audio. Let's get into it. So you've come to me seeking answers to life's greatest mysteries. Well, I probably don't have them, but I can pretend that I do and sound extremely intelligent as I do it. Anyways, you may be a composer who struggles with your creative process. Fear not, because if you apply some of the concepts discussed in this video, you will see results. After many years of composing and producing all types of music, I discovered the source of discouragement and being overwhelmed. It's due to a need for more confidence and structured methodology when it comes to our compositional process. Our process does not have to be treated as a random mental spasm that sometimes, when we're in the mood and the moon is right and it's a Tuesday, provides the results that we desire. When you lack methodology, you lack confidence because you get discouraged by inconsistent results. Therefore, the golden rule to understand is that methodology creates confidence because it ensures results. So, we want to structure our approach to ensure our desired destination, but leave enough room for creative liberties. To demonstrate these concepts, we will arrange an original piece of music based on the foundation established in my previous videos. Watching those videos aren't necessary to follow along with this one, but you may want to take a look at them when you're done watching this, as you may find them useful. Also, please consider hitting those like, subscribe, and bell icons, and sign up for my newsletter by going to my website for free video game music and other instructional content. Thanks. In my previous videos, I created a melody and chord progression in hopes of using it for a game I've been composing for entitled Riddledale. As we transition into the arrangement phase of this creative process, we need to understand arrangement as a whole. Arranging is a process that involves working with the vertical and horizontal planes of music. The vertical plane deals with how our music interacts vertically, if that wasn't obvious, through our instrumentation's tonal quality and harmony. To create cohesiveness vertically, we need to think of all of our instruments as one instrument, expressing chords and melodic phrases that span numerous octaves. Thinking this way helps us define the proper voicings and ranges for our instrumentation. It also prevents our arrangement from being cluttered or overly focused in one frequency range, which will make our overall mix cleaner. The horizontal plane of our arrangement deals with how our music progresses linearly. Good linear progression is achieved when dynamics are created by the instrumentation used in each section of our piece. For example, if you're writing a piece with a verse-chorus structure, the instrumentation would be filled out during the chorus compared to the verse, where you would deliberately keep your instrumentation minimal to leave room for the music to climax. Keeping these concepts in mind, we're now going to begin arranging. The first step is to decide on our tempo and song structure. Given the context I'm composing for, I know that this track will most likely be used as a loop. Therefore, it needs to be about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes long. This duration is standard for the majority of game music loops. With that established, we can decide on a song structure that will match our desired duration. A simple A-B-A-B structure at 120 BPMs will generate 36 measures of music, which brings us to a little over 1 minute. We then want to choose the instrumentation we'll be using for this piece. The instruments we choose need to achieve 3 things. 1. They need to fit the aesthetic, emotionality, and context we are composing for. 2. The tone quality of all the instruments needs to blend well together. 3. They need to sound good in the range in which you are planning on using them. You can quickly test these factors by dragging the original chord and melody MIDI into your virtual instruments channels. Experiment with different combinations of instruments in different ranges and see what happens. I've chosen my instrumentation because of the minimalistic nature needed to fit the aesthetic of our game, Riddledale. A mistake I've made before is adding too many layers that draw attention away from the most important point of focus, in this case, the melody. An instrument layer that is not stylistically appropriate can cause interference because the tonal quality is too abrasive compared to the other instruments. While it can be an interesting stylistic choice to have an instrument that pierces through your mix while the rest of your arrangement remains rather subtle, If you're going to have a blaring tuba line double a light floaty harp melody, you might want to maybe rethink the entirety of your life. Once we've decided on our instrumentation, we're going to organize our project file. Every composer's absolute favorite part! I will color code our instruments and group them according to my 3 sections: melody, harmony, and percussion. I'm also using color to indicate the frequency range my instruments are sitting in to make my mixing process more manageable. Though this is a small ensemble of instruments, this practice becomes particularly helpful in larger templates. Now we can begin inputting information into our DAW, starting with the melody. I decided that the melody would be played primarily by piano and would sit within the C4 to C6 range. I'm going to use an acoustic guitar and celesta to layer with the piano, accenting the melody where there are moments of tension and release. After experimenting with various instruments, I've chosen piano and marimba to provide the harmonic component of this piece. The piano will be our primary provider of chords and will sit between C3 and C5 with a bass note played between C1 and C2. The marimba will sit between C4 and C5 and will complement our melody by filling in space and providing additional harmony. I'm also adding a brass section in the C3 range the second time through our loop to add some additional interest in harmony. As you can see, each instrument grouping tends to occupy their own 1 to 2 octave range. In this case, the melody occupies the highest range, the chords occupy the mid-most range, and the bass will occupy the lowest range. As mentioned before, this method reduces clutter in any given range and spreads out my arrangement, giving clarity to each instrument. I chose my chord voicings according to the best use of voice leading. Voice leading refers to the way in which individual notes move from chord to chord. The most effective use of this technique ensures that each note moves a minimal distance from one chord to the next. For example, in measure 2, my piano is voicing a C major triad. As the chord moves to A minor 7, the bass note moves, but the top voicing remains the same as these two chords share the same notes. I apply this technique for every instrument that provides the chords in my arrangement. Now that we have a basis for our chords and melody, we will arrange the bass and percussion section. I tend to compose these sections simultaneously with one another because of the relationship they share. The groove played by our percussion section will affect how I approach the writing of the bass and vice versa. I'm also listening for moments in the melody that I can emphasize with my rhythm section. I'm using this jazzy cymbal groove played on an acoustic drum kit as the foundation of our percussion section. I'm then layering it with bongos, tambourine, and rhythmic palm-muted guitar. The bass primarily plays root notes and fifths, which is common when arranging for the style. In measure 4 to 5, I find my first opportunity to accentuate my melody by using my percussion and bass. Then again, in measures 8 to 10. All of this informs my decision to change the groove in our B section. I'll have the bass and piano playing staccato notes and add a kick drum on beats 1 and 3 and a tambourine on 2 and 4. Doing so gives our B section more drive, which provides contrast from our A section. I refer to the last part of the arranging process as detailing. At this stage, I make all of the final last-minute decisions, such as changing chord voicings, fills, and notes in our melody. I also re-record parts and add or remove instruments in each section to keep our loop interesting. I save these types of details to the very end because they tend to stop the creative flow if they are fixated on before the basis of the piece is complete. Now let's take a listen to this track from start to finish. It was also at the stage of arranging, I realized that using this piece for Riddledale as a beachy island adventure probably won't work in the way I intended, and that's fine. No, really, it's fine. It's all part of the creative process. The reason this happened comes back to what I specifically said not to do in my previous video. Before choosing a reference piece to inspire my ideas, I didn't fully consider the context. I started composing before having all the necessary visual references to ensure that my initial idea would convey the right aesthetic for our game and its environment. So I did what every good composer does and cried myself to sleep. And then I woke up and started the exact process highlighted in my videos with a better reference track, which yielded a better result. The composition I've worked on in these past videos can work for our game, but not in the original context that I intended. Due to its strong harmonic direction and prominent melody, it would be better used to highlight a moment of dialogue or to represent a character. Lesson learned. We'll see if it ends up in our game. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the limitless options made possible by digital audio workstations and the creative process in general. As I hope you can see, the purpose of structuring the compositional process is to help get our ideas out as fluently as possible. Making decisions before arranging, like solidifying song structure and organizing project files, lays a foundation for us to make quick and decisive choices. Similarly, using a reference piece, as explored in my previous videos, helps create a framework to inspire our ideas. Even though some of these procedures may seem tedious, the importance of systematizing our workflow cannot be emphasized enough. Introducing structure and strategy enhances creative spontaneity because it eliminates the need to correct mistakes later on, leaving more time and space for the fun stuff. If you found these techniques helpful, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments below. Oh, and while you're here, check out a few of these other videos on my channel. I'm wishing you all the best on your musical journey. May all of your creative visions come to fruition in the most amazing way possible. Thanks again for watching, stay beautiful, and stay blessed.